All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu Cree, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation and Treaty 3 territory. My name is Neil Harden. I'm chairing today's panel. With me are Valerie Werhun and Richard Whitbread. Secretary today is Crystal Harland, and the assessor is Matthew Harling. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Border Vision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the business assessment rule in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act and the City of Winnipeg Charter. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application and will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that made this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by council and is independent of it in the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that would be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. The board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions the applicant may have and the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application is being brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The sessions will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 1, 4, 5, 6, and 10 on their docket today. Ms. Harland, has the applicant for property number 1, is he online? He or she online?
Yes, he's online, Mr. Chair.
Okay, can you then swear the applicant and assessor in, please?
Yes, and I'll put Mr. Neufeld in the waiting room. Mr. Assessor, would you please state your full name?
Matthew Harling.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you were about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, would you please state your full name?
Elliot Bennett.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you were about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, first of all, Mr. Bennett, we don't have a brief from you. Are you intending upon presenting evidence?
You should have received evidence from us. We sent in a package. Did you guys not receive that?
We don't have it as yet. Ms. Harland, do you have such a package?
No, Mr. Chair, we did not receive anything.
Okay, it seems to have gone astray somewhere.
I can send it right now if that works.
Okay, can you send it to Ms. Harland then?
Mr. Applicant, do you have the email to send the evidence to?
Yes.
Okay, please send it then and we'll,
Is that to bore@winnipeg.ca?
yes.
Okay, sending right now. This was sent, I think, March 23rd. So,
Well, I apologize, Mr. Applicant. I don't have anything on record.
okay. I can start to go through the information if that works, or do you want to wait until you guys receive the email?
Uh, Ms. Harland will have to receive the email and then put it in our SharePoint so we can view it.
Okay.
In the meantime, I guess, Mr. Harling, you can begin with your evidence.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the file number is 24-4466. The address is 177 Forbes Road. The business assessment ID is 52279. The business name is Air Strength Canada, and the owners are numbered company 5810648 Manitoba Limited. The 2025 business assessment value based on reference date of April 1st, 2023 has a total annual rental value of $81,180. If we look below my brief here under the subject bid information, we'll see again the subject bid, and we can see we have one premise on file. Again, the premise address is 177 Forbes Road. We have a total premise area of 9,984 square feet and a base ARV of $60,403, which equates to a base rent of, or a base annual rent value per square foot at $6.05 a square foot. Just before I continue further, I just wanted to mention that I talked to the assessor who dealt with this property. There was a realty hearing on this property, and they at the time made a recommendation on to revise the rent that they had applied. So after discussing with the assessor there, I'm going to be just making a recommendation on the rent applied here. So as I indicated here, the model rent was $6.05, which equates to a base rent of $60,403. The rent that was used or applied, or the recommended by the assessor at that hearing was $5.40 a square foot. So that being said, I'd like to apply that rent, or that base rent going forward. So this would equate to a revised base ARV of $53,914. So that's based on, again, at the realty hearing, the assessor had made a recommendation based on the rent. So I just want to, that's what I'd recommend for the base rent. And if you look to the right on my brief here under the occupancy costs, you'll see we're assessing heat and electricity and no water and air conditioning, so which gives us a total occupancy cost of $20,767. So if we add that to the revised base ARV of $53,914, that gives us a revised value of $74,700. So that would be my revised value that I will be going forward with.
Okay, Mr. Bennett, how do you feel about that value?
I feel that's high.
Okay,
sure.
so you wish to continue, then all right.
Yeah, no problem. Yes. No, so that's yeah, that's no problem. That's but again, yeah, I will be sticking with that still, with the revision on that. Okay, so if we look below that here under subject lease information, we have it as owner occupied. Now further, if we go below here into the rent comparables here, so I have 5 rent comparables. So I have you can see the address here of 111 Cole Avenue, 404 Archibald Street, 131 Cordite Road, 171 Cole Avenue, and then 1395 Napa Road. Lease start dates range from April 2018 to January 1st, 2021. Lease terms range from 2 to 10 years. Reported areas range from 6,655 square feet to 15,000 square feet. And the reported rents range from $6.03 a square foot to $13.50. So those are the rent comparables. If we turn to page 2 of my brief here, you'll see I've shown a comparable map here. So the subject properties, you can see, if you look at the bottom of the map, it's the little greenhouse, that's the subject property, and all the rent comparables you can see here where they're located. So these are much further north of the subject property. So I'm very mindful of the fact that the comparables are further away from the subject. There's just unfortunately not a lot of comparables in the subject region. Henceforth why I had to expand my search. But as indicated, looking at the rent comparables, they are higher rents than what the proposal I had put. So I feel, based on what the assessor proposed at that time, the rent we're using is lower. So I'm mindful of the fact that some of these comparables you could argue would be in different locations in the subject as well. If we turn to page 3 of my brief, this is just a photo of where the subject's located. So it's located just on St. Mary's Road, as you can see here, just south of the south perimeter here. If we turn to page 4 of my brief, you get a better picture of where the subject's located on Forbes Road. So if you look to the right on the map, you can see St. Mary's Road, and you'll see Forbes Road here. So this is where the subject's located. Page 5 of my brief, you can just see a photo of the subject property here. Again, on Forbes Road, so you see how the parcel, an aerial view of the subject. And then if we turn to page 6 of my brief, this is the rear of the photo of the subject property here, you can see. And then lastly, on page 7 of my brief, this is just a further photo from the subject property. So, okay. That being said, I believe that concludes my presentation, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Bennett?
Yes. Let's start with zoning and comparables. How are you looking as far as our zoning on this property versus the 5 comparables?
The zoning of the comparables would be more of a, I believe, an M2 or M1, so more of an industrial zoning. And I'm very mindful of, yes, your zoning is RR5.
So there's some limitations that we face that these M2 properties would not face.
Correct. There would be some differences in like what you could do with the property. Correct. Yes.
Right. So that diminishes our use and therefore value. The lowest property you have listed here is 404 Archibald. Its value is 1.1 million. Our reassessed value is 636,000. So a $464,000 difference in just valuation alone for the actual property. That to me says our rent shouldn't be the same as even 404 Archibald, which is your lowest comparable. So even going down to 540, I mean, that's great that you're moving in that direction. So thank you for that.
No problem.
We feel with our limitations, the lack of service that we get on that street, we have road restrictions, a whole bunch of different.
Mr. Chair, I think we're hearing evidence, not questions.
Yes. Can you just stick to questions to the
Okay,
assessor,
sorry.
and you'll have an opportunity to make your presentation in a minute.
Okay, so zoning then was my question. How does that compare like an M2 to an RR5 as far as valuation goes?
There would be, like, as you indicated, there would be very limitations in certain things you could develop on that side opposed to, let's say, an M1 or M2 property. So yeah, so I'm very mindful of that. Yes. Okay,
good. And then overall, the value of the building itself, does that come into account?
In terms of like the realty, I mean, we're dealing with more of the business assessment, but obviously that's part of the overall value. Yes, the rent would be like part of the overall value, though. Yes, yes. So.
Okay. So would it make sense that a lower value building be deemed lower value rent?
I mean, I don't dispute like there's some, there'd be some differences in like what some comparables I've used. So yes, you could argue that, there would be some variations in valuations. I mean, obviously these buildings are not exactly the same. So yes, don't disagree. There could be some variations in the value. So.
Right. And then also moving to the heat, hydro, water, and air conditioning, that is the 20,766 total cost to occupy. That's not even close to our average per year. So the evidence that we submitted states differently. Is that taken into account?
Well, when it comes to the occupancy costs, the rates that we apply for each of the, I'm not sure if you have my brief in front of you, but all the rates that we apply, that we actually look at the rates that are applied from utility boards, what they're charging for hydro heat. So I'm mindful of the fact there's going to be some variations by property to property, but we're looking at it more on when we look at properties and we assess them, we're doing it on a mass appraisal basis. So we're not doing it so much on site specific, but I'm mindful, yes, there would be variations from property to property, correct? So.
Okay. Okay, so I mean, our building's kind of a one-off. I think maybe everybody probably recognizes that at this point. There's nothing that compares to it in the city. And with a cost to occupy at $20,766 and our actual cost is $7,980, a difference of $12,786. Are we being penalized for being more efficient than the average business in Winnipeg operating in these buildings?
I mean, I don't know if I would use the word penalize per se, but yes, like I said, we look at the properties as a when we apply these rates, we're looking at it as a whole. So yes, there's going to be some variation. So I'm mindful of the fact, yes, in some cases like yourself, you might have a bit lower, and there's other businesses that might have higher, for example, right? So, but yes, I'm very mindful.
Right. Okay. All right. So those are my questions.
Okay. Ms. Warhan, any questions of the assessor?
I do not, thank you.
Mr. Whitbread.
Just a couple. Mr. Harlan, is it fair to say that all businesses who operate for a profit in Winnipeg are charged these same occupancy costs?
Yes. Yeah, correct.
Independent of their actual costs?
Yeah, as I indicated, yeah, with since we're assessed the properties on a mass appraisal basis, we are using the same occupancy cost rates across the board for all properties, correct? Yes.
Thank you for that. These comps you provided, you've got 5 comps here. Are any of them what I would call semi-rural or rural similar to this property?
In all honesty, I believe I wouldn't really classify them as rural, no. The majority of them would be within the city limits and more developed areas. So I mean, some are more superior than others, I would argue, but yes, no, I wouldn't agree. They're not in the rural setting, if you will.
They're not zoned rural.
Correct. They're all, yeah, exactly. They're not zoned the same as the subject, which is RR5. So,
But yeah, the subject is
yes,
rural RR5.
correct.
Okay, thank you. No, I'm fine. No other questions.
Okay.
Mr.
I have-
Chair. Oh,
Yes.
you ask your questions and then I'll come back to you. I have a point I'd like to make with you.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say I don't have any questions that haven't been asked and answered. So go ahead, Richard or Mr. Whitbread.
Should we be pausing and having a recess to discuss the evidence from the applicant before we?
Yes,
Really?
we should seeing its late evidence, but he hasn't begun presenting yet, so we'll have to decide on whether to receive late evidence.
So,
Mr. Chair, I haven't received anything yet.
Okay.
Did you check your spam folder maybe? This is twice. Yeah, evidence was sent March 22nd and again today to bor@winnipeg.ca.
No, I'm sorry, I don't have anything, and I've checked our deleted files and our inbox, etc.
I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. I could share my screen if that works for you guys, and then you guys can talk about it.
Hmm.
Mr. Chair, may I ask or give the applicant the email address? Okay, so Mr. Applicant, the email address is bor@winnipeg.ca. Is that what you're sending it to?
Yes.
Yes. No, I'm sorry, but I don't have anything.
Yeah, something's going wrong.
Crystal, what I could suggest is you send him an email and have him reply to you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, is that okay with you?
Yeah, that would work. Anything that will get the information.
And we could take our break, Mr. Chair, while we're waiting for that, perhaps?
Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break here and try and sort this out.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'm going to take us offline if that's okay with you, and then I'll send an email to the applicant and we'll go from there. How does that sound?
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay.
Oh, and Mr. Bennett, if you could, when you get the email address, perhaps forward the email you sent on March 22nd again, so we can date stamp it?
I'm gonna actually send, I think I was in correspondence with Crystal yesterday, so I'm gonna resend to your email right now.
Okay, and if you could just, again, maybe forward the previous email,
I
just so
will.
we can see where you sent it,
Okay.
and that will.
Okay, I will put the assessor in the waiting room and I'll take us offline. Just a moment, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Okay. What we have tried is we're not getting anything. Something somewhere is going wrong with the email connection from the applicant. So what we will do is just proceed with verbal evidence from the applicant. So,
Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Yes?
may I remind the applicant, or have you remind the applicant, that we do not consider comparable values of properties when we're doing our review?
Yes. Yeah. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, he
Uh,
mentioned some comparable values, and it's just fair to remind him, we're not considering.
yeah, we're not concerned about assessed values.
Yeah.
Um, court decisions have said we can't compare assessments of properties. So, because we don't know which assessed property is correct. Um, all right, so
That's
Mr. Bennett, you can proceed.
okay. Just touching on that note, you're not able to compare like total valuation, building valuations, is that correct?
Yeah, any assessed value. We can look at obviously comparable rents of properties,
Okay.
uh,
So that's the
but
comparable.
but we can't look at assessed rents or assessed values.
Okay. That's kind of stifling as far as determining valuation of a building and how much rent it should pull. Like, for instance, a Class A commercial building downtown is going to pull more rent than Class B outside the core, for instance.
Of course, I mean what we're saying though is that they have to be based on actual rental values and not how they are assessed. So, yeah, for instance, you can compare if you have a rental value of a comparable property to yours, um, we can accept that evidence. But if it's just based on how a property is assessed, then um, the courts have very much decided that we can't accept that evidence.
Okay. So that kind of leads me to some differences in your rent comparables then. This is what I'm going to point out to start. So when you're trying to compare apples to apples, I'm assuming, something that's very similar to what we have going on. And
Yeah.
your lowest one is 404 Archibald. Uh, Annual rental values $6.03. Okay. So it's a little bit less square footage. The zoning is zoned M2 for manufacturing, which gives it much more broader reach on what kind of businesses can operate out of that. Its annual rental value is actually less than our building. So at 75,000, the original. The building itself is worth almost double, just under. I know that doesn't matter, but when you're comparing apples to apples, that is something that um, I would look at. Our cost to occupy, it does seem like we are being penalized for being efficient. That's what's being shown here. I have a $20,766 average that everybody else is paying. However, mine is a total of $7,980 for the year. So that's a $12,786 difference. So this $20,000 number it's approximately, I don't know, just over double of what we're paying. So really, I don't know how that could be taken as an apples to apples comparison when it's an average. Yeah, I understand it's a city of Winnipeg average. I mean, there's energy efficiency policies being pushed left, right, and center. Our building is extremely efficient. However, we being held to a standard of a less efficient business and then being charged taxes on top of that for that. I don't feel that that is in fair whatsoever, being held to the same standard. The reason why we go into this type of meeting is to talk about this building as a one-off. It is a special case. You know, we are an RR5 rural residential property with a conditional use for our type of business, and that's it. There's no water, there's no sewer, there's no garbage pickup. Our road itself is poorly maintained. You can go down Forbes Road right now and you will have a real bumpy ride. It's terrible and a safety issue. There's road restrictions in place right now. For instance, certain types of larger vehicles shouldn't be going down the road that maybe, I'm not sure. We don't. That's kind of limiting. So different things like that, along with our energy efficiency, really paint a picture for myself, and I hopefully for you guys too, that our annual rental value should not be pegged to a comparable of an M2. It should be below the 540 range that was recommended. I know previous years, even the last assessment, the assessors came back with a much, much lower number. So I'm not sure if you guys can look back at all, or if any of you were a part of that. That was deemed between 1 and 2 years ago. The building value itself has been pumped up quite a bit. I know that that's not part of your assessor role, but the property itself is only worth so much. And I believe it's worth below 540, probably into the fours.
Okay, what rental value would you place on it?
Maybe in the high fours, 480, something like that. Kind of a mix between our previous and the current offer of 540, and then taking our actual cost to occupy into consideration would also be great. Or else we're just being penalized and caught up in an upswing, which in the interest of fairness doesn't seem very fair. So, I mean, that's, you know, giving a business an opportunity to run more efficiently. We do. We feel that we should be offset somewhere along the line for our, you know, energy efficiency and not penalized for it.
Okay, is that your presentation?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, questions, Mr. Harlan? You're muted.
Apologies. No, I think I'm good. Thank you very much. No questions.
Okay, Mr. Whitbread, questions?
Just a couple. Mr. Bennett, I'm looking, do you have access to the evidence provided by the city?
Yes,
Can you look at page 6 of that evidence?
I can. Yep,
Tell me when you have it in front of you.
I've got it.
So this is the structure that we are assessing today.
Correct.
Sorry, the business tax on this structure or on
Right.
this business.
Yeah.
So you have 2 buildings there. Are they all tied into the business?
Yes.
Yeah, I actually see 3 buildings.
Yeah.
And the big building with the items on the roof, the dots on the roof, is that a greenhouse?
Yes.
And so my understanding of your business is that you bring plants into this building and then you rent them out to places?
Correct.
Could be homes, could be businesses.
It's mostly businesses. Yes.
Okay. So you do have to have heat in here, obviously, for the winter to keep the plants alive.
Yep. It's
But,
heated.
okay, no air conditioning in any of this complex.
No air conditioning. No.
Okay. And no water, sir. Can you
We
explain
have,
that, how you keep plants alive?
so we have a cistern that's in the building closest to the Quonset. It has a 4,000-gallon cistern in it.
Okay,
So we have city water supply brought in there, and we also have a well that we use for the washroom, for instance.
and do you pay for that water?
The well water or the city water?
The city water?
City water, yeah. Yeah, we bring that in from Lee's water supply, I believe.
What would that cost you on an annual basis? Do you know?
That's a good question. 1,000, 1,200 maybe.
So when you talk about water, the city talks about water costing $1. That's not a fair assessment, is it? Your water costs you more than $1.
I would have to look that up, to be honest with you. I don't order the water and pay for the water. I can get that number.
Well, I'm just asking you roughly.
I don't know the exact number. I
Yeah.
understand what you're saying, that city
Yeah.
water is, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
buy our own water, essentially.
Because you are making a plea on the basis of your occupancy costs. And so there is some occupancy cost for water.
Right? We also have rainwater collection off that large building. So we do things like that as well.
Yeah,
So
I understand you.
sure.
It looks almost like a house on the front end of the one Quonset building in the front. Is that a house or is it some other sort of structure?
Yeah, it's like I believe it would have been a garage before. And
Okay.
it's basically like it's like an old office now. It was built in 74, that portion. So there's some storage going on in there.
And there is no air conditioning in that.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Just trying to get a sense of your property and more your business because that's what's being assessed, right?
Right.
Yeah. You keep talking about the building. The building has already been assessed through realty. Do you understand that?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they've dropped you were part of that call, I know, and it was dropped down to a new number. So yeah.
I recall the property clearly. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Chair, I have no other questions. I'm fine.
Okay, Ms. Werhan.
Mine were just answered, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. I guess I've got no questions that haven't been asked and answered, so thank you very much. That concludes the hearing on your property then. So
Okay.
thank you, and sorry for the glitch wherever that glitch happened in terms of getting the presentation.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for listening.
Okay.
Take care.
Mr. Chair, I'll let the next applicant in.
Yep, and we'll have to, of course, swear him in.
Yes. Oops, here our applicant.
Can you hear me?
Pardon me?
I gotta leave and come back. My camera's not detecting it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Aye. Remember that?
There you are. Okay, can you swear Mr. Neufeld in, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Applicant, would you please state your full name?
Ayrton Neufeld.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
All right. So the next property on today's agenda is 2477 Day Street. So Mr. Harling, you can begin.
Thanks, Chairman. The file number is 24-5160. The address is 2477 Day Street. The business says 6574. And I apologize here. And the owners are Markwell Industries 1979 Limited. The 2025 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2023 has a total annual rental value of $186,600. If we look at information on my brief here, the subject bid here, we'll see again the premise ID and the one address is 2477 Day. We have total premise area of 19,635 square feet, applying a base ARV of 140,587, which equates to a $7.16 base ARV per square foot. You can see beside that occupancy cost, we're assessing heat, electricity, and water full area, and then 150 square feet for air conditioning, which equates to a total occupancy cost of $46,000. And if we add that to the base ARV, that'll give us a total rental value of $186,600. And below that, my brief yield subject lease information, you'll see this is owner occupied. It is not owner occupied based on our information we have. And I'll just be very brief here. So here's my 5 rent comparables. You can see here 131 Cordite, 1395 Niagara, 1000 Alexander, 2475 Day, and 330 Debates.
If I could just interrupt here, Mr. Neufeld, are you going to be requesting confirmation on this one?
For this property, yes.
Yeah, I was going to try to allude to that. Sorry, I apologize. I should have said that sooner. So
yeah. Okay, so then
yeah, we'll leave it at that then. Yeah, let's leave it there.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, Mr. Neufeld, questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Werhan, questions?
None, thank you.
Mr. Whitbread?
I have none, thank you.
Okay, your presentation then, Mr. Neufeld.
No presentation, thank you. I will be requesting confirmation. There was a cap change. We were happy. It wasn't.
Okay, thank you. So then we will move on to 550 Messier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so the file number is 24-5166. The roll year or the address is 5550 Messier Street. Business assessment ID is 3046. And the owner is Industrial Metals 2006 LP. The 2025 assessed value based on a reference date of April 1st, 2025 or 2023 is $455,340. If you look below my subject bid information here, we'll see we have 3 premises here. So we have 550 Messier, and 560 and 560. I'll go through the pictures so that makes more sense. So you see for the first premise area, we have 52,030 square feet. For the second premise, we have 12,251 square feet. And then the third premise, we have 10,275 square feet.
Chair, again, sorry, Mr. Harling. Again, do we need this evidence if we're going to have a confirmation?
Actually, I just had an email conversation with Mr. Neufeld. There's some evidence he'd like to go through, so I think we're going to be going through with this one actually. So
Okay.
Yeah, that's my mistake, and I'll explain.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry.
no worries, no problem. Okay, so for the 550 Messier, you can see here where you have a base annual rent value of $272,117, which equates to a rent of $5.23 for premise number 3895. We have base annual rent value of $33,690, which equates to a base rent of $275. And then the third premise at 33372, we have a base and we have an annual base annual rental value of $51,375, which equates to a $5 rent. Okay, now if you look for the occupancy costs for the first premise at 3894, we'll see we're assessing heat, water and air conditioning at 2,400 square feet and full area for electricity. For PID number 3895, we're assessing no occupancy costs. And then for premise 33372, we're assessing 10,000, or we're assessing the full area for heat, electricity, and water, and then 1,656 square feet for air conditioning. So if we take into account all those occupancy costs, we have a total occupancy cost of $98,121. And if we add that to the total base annual rent value of $357,182, that gives us the total annual rent value of $455,340. Okay, if you look under the subject lease information, we'll see this is owner occupied. So if we look below that, we see my rent comparables here. So you can see the comparables: 44 Archibald, 963 Dugald, 131 Cordite, 2475 Day, 1169 Sherwin, 1670 Inkster, 99 Bannister, 1515 Oak Point, and then 1415 Saskatchewan. Lease terms range from November 2018, August 2017 to February 2023. Lease terms range from 2 to 18 years. The reported areas range from 7,000 to 91,431 square feet. And the reported rents range from $5.64 to $12 a square foot. If you turn to page 2 of my brief, you can just see a picture of both comparable locations. You can see the subjects in green. You can see all the rent comparables where they're located, some closer to some subjects, some further other portions of the city. Turn to page 3. This is just a photo of the subject where it's located on Messier Street. So this is just where it's located. Messier Street, just off of Archibald Street. Page 4 is just the photo overhead of the subject property. Page 5 of my brief, this is just the parcel overhead view. So you can see, as I indicated, 550 and 560. So these buildings are technically in 2 roles, but they are the same business. So the businesses are on are linked together, if you will. So, but it's the same business being in both spaces, henceforth why there's the 2 addresses. Page 6 of my brief, this is just a further photo facing Messier. Page 7 is just a further photo, just showing the 550 from the front and the back of the building. Page 8 is just a picture of the property at 550 Messier, as you can see here. And then page 9 is just a further photo of the subject property at 550. Now just going through here, I just also, both these properties were heard at the realty level. So 550 Messier is the property here. So in this case, there was just a cap rate adjustment, and no adjustment to the NOI for 550, and then for 560, this one was heard as well. This one, in this case, this was the decision was based on the applicant's evidence in that case. That being said, I believe that concludes the presentation, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Yes, please, thank you. And I apologize, I caught this morning. I looked at 550 and was going to confirm because there was no change to the rent, but 560 was. So I'll go through it, but I just want to explain why I'm not trying to pull a fast one, but I kind of am. Mr. Harling, any of your rents heated, unheated? Sorry.
Some of the comparables, I don't have the breakdown for which ones exactly.
On your page 6, do you know which portion is unheated? Can you point to it? Is it the one with the number on it?
Yeah. Well, yes, that would be the unheated portion. Correct. Yes.
Yeah, where it says 560 over it.
Yeah, on the map. Yeah.
Okay, and then our evidence for the realty, they raised the area on unheated portion and applied $1.
Oh, you're cutting out. So.
Oh, sorry, am I cutting out?
Sorry, could you just repeat that? I think you're cutting out a bit. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Yes,
Yes.
that's better. Yes.
Okay, so in the realty, they for 560, they increased the area to 13,907 for the unheated and used $1, and then for the heated portion, which would be the third bid on this assessment, they used $4. Would do you have that information? Can you confirm
that? Based on the brief, I believe that was the information that was submitted. Yes, and yeah.
Okay, so I guess we didn't have a chance to go over that, and that's partially my fault. Have you done a flow through calculation? And if I gave you one, would you disagree with it, or do you want to argue over it?
I mean, that's the board's decision, so like I'm
Yeah.
not if the board qualified, I'm fine with that. So, but yes, I'm like I said, yeah, I'm mindful of the fact, yes, that was the decision. Great. And the 550, the board didn't make adjustment, but they did on the 560 based on the information you provided.
Yeah, no, because I don't have any evidence here. I'm hoping that you don't disagree with what the evidence that was decided on, just so that we have an understanding. But the dollar and on the unheated and the 4 on the heated, you would agree with it.
Yeah, that is correct.
That was what was.
That was what.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I can deal with that in my presentation then. Those are my questions.
Okay, questions, Mr. Whitbread?
I'm trying to assess your evidence here on page 1. Your heat and water. Am I mistaking something here? You've got the same value, but different rates for the same square feet.
For which premise?
Well, you look at your heat at 73 cents for 2,400.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry, bear with me.
Sure, no problem.
Let me make sure my thinking is right. 26 cents for 2,400 square feet for water, and you get 10,000. No, I'm still not.
Yeah, sorry, maybe it's gotta like, yeah, because if you look, you have to look at each, I guess, individual line, like the 2,400 would be like, yeah.
10,275 times the 73.
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
it was my mind playing visual tricks on
No,
me.
I know what you mean. It can get a little confusing when you have multiple premises. I agree.
Yeah. And then your comps, like you're looking at your 275 for property or for premise 3895. I don't see anything near that. What building is that you're charging that low rent?
I believe that is building. If we look at page, let's see here.
I like page 7.
Yeah, 6 or yeah, 7 probably would be. I believe it is the one with the over where you can see where there's a missing roof. From my understanding, I believe that's the building there.
No, sorry, no. I guess that's not my question, but I can identify it if you like.
Yeah, if you yeah, because like unfortunately, like I said, I didn't get a chance to really dig in.
Yeah,
so.
the portion with the roof. Is it all right if I answer this question?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
Portion without the roof there is what they applied as a shed. That's not being assessed today for business.
Oh, okay.
tax.
Okay, I got
That's
confused.
absolutely no rental value. The portion that is unheated would be where the number 560 is over on the, if you're looking at page 7, it's the far right and the top picture and the far left on the bottom picture. So it is just complete. It's a building with absolutely no services at all inside.
Okay.
But that portion with the no roof is not under debate today. Not even.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Thank you for I just clarified.
Sorry, I figured it was easier for me to explain.
I have no other questions.
Okay, Ms. Werhan, questions?
I have none, thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Neufeld, you can begin your presentation.
Thank you. And again, I apologize. Like I said, I looked at 550 and thought I'd be confirming this, but I realized this is 2 realty roles in one business, which I knew. I've done this before, and I made that mistake of not looking at the 560 changes. So I will be requesting a flow through completely. If you look at the assessor's page 13 and 14, it was our value plus they gave $100,000 value to that the roofless shed, 114,000, and that's not considered rentable area. They put that as a additional cost, but that wasn't done on the income approach or given a cap in any way. So what I will be requesting a change of increasing. If you look at the first page, the 12,251 was actually 13,907. They did go up the area, and that was what we applied, and that was applied at $1, and that was that portion I mentioned with Mr. Whitbread's question. That was the unheated space. And then for the 10,275 square foot area, they applied $4. So the change the occupancy cost will be none because there's no occupancy costs attributed to the area change, the portion where the area was increased. It is completely unserviced. But the request will be that the base ARV for the second bid, for premise ID 3895, will be 13,907 as it was applied as a dollar. For the 33372, base ARV would be 41,100. And everything else remains the same. So my total unrounded would be 425,247. And I rounded it, but now I'm realizing I don't know how it gets rounded. So I'm gonna take your word for it because
Yes, go ahead.
yeah, is it divisible by 12 and ends in a 0?
It's got to end in a 0 and be divisible by 12.
Correct.
Yeah.
Evenly divisible by 12. Anything's divisible by 12, but got to be evenly divisible by 12.
Yeah, well, right. 45 to 40 maybe.
Yeah, let me plug those numbers in. I'll be able to tell you. So 13,907 at $1,
Correct.
and then 10,275 at $4.
Correct.
And did the area change on any other one? Because you went up in the area on
No, the area was the same for the 10,275 square footage, and then the 52030 is the same as well. So that first premise ID won't be changing at all, as that was a cap change. But the
okay.
second premise ID increased in area, and then the third one remained the same.
425,280. It'll be 425,280.
280. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so that's my request. Thank you for everyone doing my job for me, as I forgot to do it for this one. Thank you. Well, it takes a village. But yeah, and again, I really hate that I didn't bring evidence, but this is a flow through, so I think it would be reasonable to request it. And it is. I implore the assessor to disagree if he does on what was decided, and I think that's why my questions were of that nature.
Okay. Mr. Harling, do you have any questions?
You know what? I think I'm good. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Ms. Werhan?
None, thank you.
Mr. Whitbread?
And I have none, thanks.
Okay. Now we come to our last property on 1350 Saskatchewan. And my pen is rapidly running out of ink. Just as I'm on the second last page of my notebook. Okay, so Mr. Harling, you can begin.
Thanks, Chairman. The file number is 24-5070. The address is 1350 Saskatchewan Avenue. Business assessment ID is 26142. And the owners are Ancast Industries Limited. The 2025 business assessment value based on Environment State of April 1st, 2023 has a total annual rental value of $448,400. If you look below on page 1 of my brief under the subject bid, you can see the one premise on file. Given the address is 1350 Saskatchewan Avenue. We have a total premise area of 90,103 square feet with a total base annual rental value of $315,316. This equates to a base ARV per square foot at $3.50. For occupancy costs, we'll see we're assessing for heat, water, and air conditioning only 8,484 square feet. I believe that would be more of the office portion of this particular property. And then we're assessing full area of 90,103 square feet for the electricity. So this equates to a total occupancy cost of $133,092. That with the base RV gives us the total annual rental value of $448,440. Okay, if we look below in my brief here, we'll see subject lease information, owner occupied. So this is an owner occupied property, so there's no lease in place. Okay, so if we look at my rent comparables here, we can see here we have 6 comparables. So I have 1000 King Edward Street, 1835 Sargent Avenue, 1451 Saskatchewan, 230 Panet, 55 Dunlop, and 1150 Fife Street. The lease start dates range from August 2017 to March 2022. Lease terms range from 1 to 18 years. Reported areas range from 85,271 square feet to 108,187 square feet. And the reported rents range from $4.16 to $6.04 a square foot. Okay, if we turn to page 2 of my brief, you can see the comparable locations here. So I've shown a map here. So the green property is the subject, and you can see some of the comparables I've shown here. Again, being a large building, there's some comparables. Had to do some comparable searches outside the market region, but you can get an idea where they're located. Page 3 of my brief, this is the location of the subject. As I indicated, it's on Saskatchewan Avenue, so very close to St. James Century Street, so in the St. James area of the city. Page 4 of my brief, this is the subject property, the little red dot here you can see on Saskatchewan Avenue. Okay, if we turn to page 5 of my brief, this is the property here at 1350 Saskatchewan again. Again, the business that's being used in there is called Ancast Industries. So they essentially, just to give some background, they essentially do iron casting for various parts, automotive parts, industrial manufacturing parts. So, so you can see it's a large building built in stages, and definitely in of older condition as well, and some factors as well. If we turn to page 6 of my brief, this is the front of the building facing Saskatchewan Avenue, as you can see here. Page 7 of my brief, this is just the rear of the subject property. And then on pages 8, 9, and 10, this property was heard at the realty level. And then you can just see that the decision was based on the net income change, or capitalization rate change. So that being said, I believe that concludes my presentation. I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Harling, are any of your comps heated in this case? Do you know?
I believe majority of them are heated. I believe maybe 1451 has some area that's not heated, but for the majority of them are heated, yes.
Yeah, and I looked through them. There's they're mostly warehousing, I think, trucking companies, and one of them was a manufacturer. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, that would be pretty accurate, yes.
Okay. And the building, I have 1912 is when it was built, and you said it was built in stages, right? But the heart of the building is mostly 1912. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Yes, yeah, the majority of the building was built in that area. Yes. So there is some additions, but the majority of it is of 1912 condition, if you will, or yeah.
Sure. Okay. And maybe this is more my argument, but I'll see if the question would be, we have recognized that the industrial market is improving in a lot of ways as warehousing has been more desirable. Would you agree that that doesn't necessarily translate to buildings of this nature?
Yeah, I don't dispute that. This is a unique building in the sense of building its age and its use and stuff. That yeah. So
okay. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay, questions, Ms. Werhun? You're muted there, yeah.
Sorry. I have none, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Whitbread.
Just one, really. Is it fair to say that low area, 84 square feet that is heated, could result from the fact of the nature of the business, if you're familiar with it? They heat steel in this business, don't they?
yes, it's like iron casting. I believe the actual area that's being assessed for heat, there's a very small office portion. I think that's where the heat actually is being assessed. If you look at page 6 of my brief, there's like a white building there. You might be able to see the front. That's, I think, the portion that we have.
Yeah, the point I make though is the rest of the building does not need heat because it's heated by the natural manufacturing process.
Yeah, like the actual casting, you're right, it gets pretty toasty in there from my understanding. Yeah, so
yeah. I think that's all I've got.
Okay, just looking at your comparables, are they any of them like heavy industry like this is?
like I said, yeah, like I mean, honestly, it has Mr. Neufeld indicated that the building, the subject it's a unique building, what's being used for. So in terms of like the same usage exact, I don't think none of the comparables are the same in that sense. I mean, the closest one is 1451 Saskatchewan Avenue, which is used by Miller Environmental, but it is a bit of a newer building as well. So I'm mindful of some of the comparables we could argue would be superior. Obviously, there's just very few comparables of that size of buildings And, you know, there's not a lot of comparables of, you know, iron casting buildings that lease out, if you will. So the majority of them would be owner occupied. So
Yeah, okay, and the alternative uses for this building would be very limited then.
yeah, I think that's a fair statement. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Neufeld, your presentation then.
Thank you. This one was the realty had a cap change and the rent remained the same. We did appeal that decision. In the past, it has gone a large cut on the rent. I think, again, I don't want to try to anticipate how people are thinking, but I think the industrial market people see is growing and strengthening. It's slowed down a bit now post references, I can say, but this properties like this don't get the benefit of that. They get new warehousing space that, and as a whole, industrial is increased for that warehousing. But this, you know, this doesn't mean that properties that are built in 1912 are completely, for the most part, unheated or unserviced would be increasing that way. This property itself, as you have all pointed out, there is a foundry in the middle of it. In the middle, -20, they've got the doors open because it's so hot. So that not only do they not need the heat, but that is hard on a building. Like this is probably, I would say impossible to repurpose. This will remain in its entire lifetime as this use. And for some reason, if this was no longer a viable use, it would sit there forever until probably government intervention to clean it up. It was built before the landfill that is next door. That's Garbage Hill. On my page 3, you can see it there. It's just to the east of it. That's Garbage Hill. It's a dog park now. It's to where the kids go tobogganing. Adults too. I have sometimes. And then sometimes you can see my page 9. That's actually a picture from Garbage Hill. Going through the pictures though too, you can really see it. There's a sand roof. It's rough industrial, and it's completely unheated. And like I said, there's no repurposing of this whatsoever. The rent that we applied isn't perfect. I will argue it's close. It's probably better than the is better than the assessors on my page 11. It's the bolded one there. It's only 30,000 square feet, but this is cold storage. We unfortunately couldn't get the address that they didn't want it to be part of our evidence, but we do know it and can speak under oath that it is $1.75 for cold storage. And that's better than this property, quite frankly. This is a very difficult property to value, but all in all, it went up 20% from 2023 to 2025. So we felt that wasn't indicative of the value that it gained, which was likely decreasing over the years. I think somewhat of a steady increase is fair, just because no one's arguing they should be paying fewer taxes. But this building will cost much more than that to repurpose to anything else. And like I said, if it does, if our industries are destroyed in the next few years and this actually does close down, it's going to sit there for decades before anybody does anything of it, because it's not even a desirable location. So it's likely that it'll sit there until somebody's ready to put a foundry back into it. And that's just the nature of it. It's going to be impossible to clean this up without the market won't be able to clean this up. For some reason, government intervention wanted to change that area next to a landfill, potentially, but that would be millions, far more than 2.8 million. It would be incredible cost to clean this up. So the value, in a way, is it's not hypothetical. I mean, I guess that's the best way to do it. When you get this low for and I am sort of talking about the realty value, but when you get this low for a building of this size, you do have to look at the highest and best use. And if the land was clean, we would likely be going at a land value of this, but that's not possible for this. Again, the land is useless on its own. This is a building that is this is land that is tied to that building completely by the market, and it will not change probably in our lifetimes. Again, the value I use is $1.75, and I did want to point out that 560, that's from that we did before, that was an unheated, applied at $1. So I think there's argument for the dollar as well, but we are using the $1.75. And then my value with that and the same occupancy cost as the city, no disagreement there, is 290,000, 770,000. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Harlan?
I just wondered, just because I just had a question. So I'm just curious, that one comparable, that one on the Herbal there one. So I know it indicates cold storage. So it's just used for purely storage, like there's no actual business per se you're running there, I guess, just purely.
Yeah, it's cold storage. That's it was rented out, an unheated area that somebody needed for storage, and you know, like there's no perfect rents for this, and I think we like that one because it was unheated. The size is off, obviously, but again, this is impossible to find a comparable for. So that was really the closest thing you can find. I think when the building is so much of it is unheated, the best thing you can do is find other unheated sites.
Okay, I think that's the only question I have then. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Whitbread.
Yeah, just a clarification, so I'm sure I understand this, Mr. Smithfield. You talk a lot about the realty value and the low value of the property and the condition of the property, but in truth, is a business tax not simply administered as a fair market rent for the business that's being conducted in that building today?
Well, it's the rent. It's based on the value of what the building would be rented for, and we're talking about the building, not the business itself. So, I think you need to look at what it can be repurposed as, which is nearly impossible. If this building gets rented out, it's because you're renting out the foundry equipment, and that may be that this owner for some reason doesn't want to lose his building, but he sells his business, and I don't see that as something that's likely even. So the business tax really it's to try to get a rent of the space as accurate as possible, and I think that's it's a challenge in this with this building for sure.
But the reference is in the regulations and act and whatnot is to the business that's being conducted for profit, correct?
Sure, but you're not off. You're based on the value of the rental value of the said building inside of it. So if you're I mean, you could say that if in that case, then if you got two lawyers across the street from each other, that one of them doing more profit should be paying a higher business tax. That's not true. We're looking at the physical characteristics of their buildings.
Well, hypothetically, two lawyers operating across the street from each other, one for profit, one for nonprofit, one wouldn't be taxed at all, would they, for business tax?
No, well, that's
So,
yeah, absolutely. But if they're
for
both
the
operating,
business, this is for the business that's being conducted in this property.
correct.
I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Yeah. So yesterday we had one where our argument with that it would be land value completely, and it's been applied in the past. But when the land value is created, there's no flow through on the rental value. So we still had to create a hypothetical rental value for that. But again, we're looking at the building's rentable value, and the actual business inside is not really what we're trying to assess at all. It's the value of the building that they're in.
The tax we're trying to assess.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. I have no other questions.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Burhan.
No, mine were just answered. Thank you.
Okay, so what you're saying, even for land value, the cost to clean up the land would be more than the value of the land, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think I don't have a breakdown of that, but I think the cleanup cost would be something. One of the hardest buildings to clean up in the city, honestly. There's a few like the cement plant behind IKEA there that would be worse. But I mean, this realistically, you've got a foundry in the ground, and you've also got a dump next door that's running methane. So that would leach into this. I mean, again, the dump was created after this building. This building is older than the dump. So to think that this is even worth cleaning up, I don't think anyone would even touch it. So the reality would be that if for some reason that land was deemed valuable, it would require multiple levels of government for intervention, and that's just unfeasible.
Yeah. Okay, I have no more questions then. We've now heard all the items on today's agenda, and so this hearing is now adjourned. Once again, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your presentations.
Great, thanks so much.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
No, just removed Neil. Just kicked our chair out.
My.
I'm going to take us offline and I will be right back. Just a moment, please.